guys, I'm Aiden/Burger Bob, whatever you want to call me. Today is 1,000 subscriber special, also Greenhoe video, also trial by fire. Everything happened at once this time. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, I wanted to... okay, wasn't perfect. Whatever, I spun it. I just wanted to do that. So, lots of surprises. I have 1,000 subscribers. Thank you guys. You guys are the ones that are doing that, and that's really cool. And I thank you. I have nothing planned other than I just randomly got this instrument at about the same time. So, boom, that's your subscriber special right there. Yay! And also, yes, new instrument, and I just used it a bunch. So we can talk about how it actually performs and stuff like that. And I'll give you a little bit of history about the 62H as I know it, which is probably somewhat inaccurate, but let's push that aside for the moment. I played my normal horn first. You guys have seen that a ton. And then second, I played this new, and be ready to be disappointed, people who commented on my teaser. This is not a super fancy GB5 or something like that. This is the least fancy possible Greenhoe. This is a Con 62HG used. I did not buy a new Greenhoe, guys. I don't have that kind of money. And I don't know. I might buy a new one at some point, but I'm pretty happy with that. Anyway, this is a Con 62HG with the G standing, of course, for Greenhoe. A little bit of history on these instruments, not so much the 62H. I'll talk about that in a second. But I think, and I seriously cannot remember which ways this goes, but I think Con would send parts. They would send bell, tuning slide, some of the fittings like the braces and stuff, and not even, I don't think they would send slides. It was just the bell sections. They would send those parts to Greenhoe, and at the shop, Greenhoe would fabricate a, or not, they probably already had these fabricated, but they would put a valve section to that bell section. Then they would send that back to Con, and Con would sell it. They would pair it up with a random slide, and it would go out the door. So that's how these instruments came to be. If it didn't happen that way, then Greenhoe sent valve sections to Con, but I don't think they did that. I think they did it the other way around, because Greenhoe was very, very specific about how his stuff was put together. He didn't want things to have bad quality control, bad assembly. So these are very, very well built. Basically kind of, I don't want to say they're the best modern 62Hs out there, because apparently the 62HCL with the Con Lindbergh valves is also really good. But this is one of the better options on a modern Con that you could possibly get before they stopped making them, because they don't make these anymore. And it is a little interesting that Con agreed to do that, since, you know, they're actually kind of not putting them together themselves and giving Greenhoe a lot of credit for putting them together. Whatever, let's not worry about that. This is a really good instrument. Let's talk about the history of the 62H just a little bit before I talk about how good this instrument is. Let's see if I can not ramble too much. So, 62H stands for 3 different Con instruments. 3 different Con trombones, not just instruments. The original 62H is a 485 straight trombone with a screw bell with 2 different flares. One in 6 inches, which is tiny. That's like flugelhorn size. That's a really small bell. And one in 7.5 inches, which is a pretty standard small bell size. And it could swap out those 2 flares. That's the original 62H, which is from about 100 years ago, maybe a little longer, maybe a little shorter. That was the 62H. Not many of those made, maybe just a few. I think they're pretty special order. That was not just like a standard instrument they made a lot of. Then, after making a lot of basses in this smaller throat size and stem size, throat being up here, stem being down here, and of course this area, the J bend on a tuning and slide instrument, I have one right here, the J bend being this, this was a lot smaller on a lot of, not a lot, but it was smaller on a lot of Con instruments for a long time. Except for the Fuchs, F-U-C-H-C-S, 70H, which was about this size, about a Bach 50 size. It's pretty large. They made a few of those very early on, like 20s, 30s, 40s, and then didn't make any more for a long time. So they had all these smaller basses, and I think people started clamoring like, hey, or Con internally, I don't know how this happened, but they were like, hey, let's make kind of a larger bass again, because they made those 70Hs, the Fluke 70H, not the normal one, in the past, which is about a Bach 50 size. Some people say that influenced the Bach bell design, and this is actually based on a Kahn. I actually don't have any information on that. Not real information anyway. But that persuaded Kahn in the mid-60s to come out with the 60 and the 62H, which are much larger in this area than their predecessors, the 70, the 71, 72, 73, and I guess later the 83, which I don't think is this size. I think it's still small, but I have no idea. But these 70 series instruments are all a lot smaller, just kind of a smaller, tighter bass trombone sound. They sound great, but not as modern as the larger Bachs. And so they came out with the 60 and the 62. 60 just has one valve, 62 has two. That's the only difference. The wraps are just a little bit different for the first valve, and that's about it. Otherwise, they're the same. The slides are the same. So they came out with these, but they only made them for 6 or 7 years or something like that, up until like 1971, 2, something like that. So they didn't make very many of these. But people prized them. They're great instruments. I really like my 60. Once I find a lead pipe for it, right now I have no lead pipe and it doesn't play very well that way. I'm going to use this. I swear, I'm going to use this. So they made these for a little while and then they disappeared. Kahn kind of dropped off the map. They were in Abilene, Texas, making pretty mediocre instruments and not any modern basses except for like the 83H for a while. And then eventually they came out with like the 112 and the 110 and stuff. But those are kind of like not professional instruments. I mean, it's just kind of a different thing. They're not really connected to their previous legacy. And then eventually Kahn gets bought out by Selmer, etc., blah, blah, blah. We're in the 2000s and they come out with the second generation 62H, along with the second generation 88H and a bunch of other stuff. And the second generation is the same name, so it's a 62H again. For the third time, this is the third trombone named after the 62H, and now it's tuning in bell, so it doesn't have a tuning slide anymore. That's a pretty gigantic difference. Obviously the slides are going to be different because it's no longer tuning and slide. This is going to be different. It might be the same size, but now you have two sections of cylindrical tubing that didn't used to be cylindrical. But apparently they use a pretty similar bell mandrel to the older horns, so if I compare these, and if I somehow could swap them out, they would be largely the same, if you could measure them and stuff. And oddly enough, they would be largely the same. Not exactly the same. I think they're a little smaller in the throat. They'd be largely the same as this, too. So that's kind of interesting. So eventually we got to the modern 62H, and they make those with rotors and dependent and all sorts of things. With limber valves, and for a short while they made them with Greenhoe valves as well. Ta-da! We have finally arrived at the modern 62H, which is not the same as the old 62H or the one before that, obviously, but it's broadly similar. It's like a large, modern bass trombone. They really went for the modern market. It's not tuning and slide. It doesn't have tiny little rotors. The standard 62HI, when it's a good instrument, is really, really good. I've played one that was just like amazing. I would play that every day. It might actually be better than this. And that's just with the normal rotors that it comes with. So, I mean, they're good instruments. They're not exactly the same as the old tuning and slide instruments. And that kind of riled people up a little bit, I think. Anyway, this, with the Greenhoe valves, is pretty darn good. So I played this a lot the last couple of days. I played it with my Yamaha 60, which is smaller than the Lasky 93D, or my Gray Black, in all dimensions, just by a little bit. Pretty bright mouthpiece. I liked it a lot with that. Just a little bit smaller of a sound, not as broad. I kind of missed that. So I put in the Lasky, and it just really opened this horn up. It feels really good with this. This is a used instrument, and it came with the D lead pipe. I don't really know the difference between all these Kahn lead pipes. This one, I looked up, is the one that enhances flexibility, whatever that means. I think that means it's tighter, and so I can kind of feel that. The horn feels just a little bit smaller than I want it to feel. Like right there, that probably sounds pretty good. It feels all right. But let's play this real fast. My standard horn with the gray black, which is actually a little less open than the Lasky. It's not quite as open in the low range. Yeah, this just feels so much easier to just kind of relax and just let my air fall out in the low range. And the transitions between notes on Thayers versus rotors of basically any type, even fancy Greenhoe rotors, the difference is pretty big. That difference, the slur between G and C on this just feels so good. So natural, just ba-ba-da. It just goes instantly to that note, but with a nice slur to it, not a pop. The first time I relaxed too much and the horn didn't respond. Just a little bit different feeling. It's not bad by any means. And I feel like this horn projects pretty well, it sounds pretty good. But it has much less sound coming off the sides than I'm used to with my Bach, which is kind of why I like it, because it has lots of presence. Not so much just sound that goes straight to the listener, but sound that kind of goes everywhere. And I get compliments like that with that horn, that people can kind of feel my sound rather than just hear it. And I really like to have that going for me, because I feel like a lot of really good players have that aspect to their sound. And this, I don't want to say it has none of that, but it has a lot less, I feel like. It does feel more flexible, it feels more nimble, I can get around a little more easily. I do like that aspect. Articulations are a lot easier on this horn than on my other horn. It's really easy to just kind of put a lot of articulations through the instrument, which is a big issue I have actually with this instrument, especially making them clear. Especially the multiple tonguing, trying to do those triplets at the end, is really a lot more difficult on this. You just have to maintain a lot more air behind the articulation to make it really speak. And I have run into problems with this horn in that regard. I think I'm getting better at it. But this is just a really easy kind of to play in that regard. So yeah, here we go. I'm not sure what else to say about this really. It's a good instrument. I think I'm going to find a different lead pipe for it. I'm probably not going to keep it. I really like it. I think it'd be a good like big band horn or something like that. It's just a little too much for me to keep. Like I have two like really premium bass trombones. I don't really deserve, probably, I can't really afford to keep two really premium bass trombones. And this is definitely winning out in the orchestral side of things. So there you go. I'm going to talk about probably this Lasky a little bit in a later video, and also this Neotech grip, which came with the instrument. I've never tried one before, and I actually kind of like it. So I'll talk about that in a later video. This is really just about the Greenhoe 62H. If you guys have questions about it, I'll probably do a couple more videos on this horn as I play it more, get more accustomed to it. Let me know, and see you guys next time.